And welcome to This Week in Worcester podcast.
Hey, that's us.
That is us. My name is Tom Marino. I am the editor of This Week in Worcester. I'm here with my partner in Gab, Mr. John Edward Keogh.
That's me.
He is the executive producer of Manny J Media.
Manny J Media. I just made that up. Does that fly as a jingle? What do you think?
No.
No.
I think we're gonna have to take another cut at it. Happy Labor Day to all the folks. It is always entertaining to me that we celebrate this tradition of Labor Day that comes directly from a socialist tradition, yet we celebrate it. It's kind of funny to me. Today we are going to do some talking. We're going to look at we'll talk about the discussion at City Council this past week about traffic safety, which is of course at the top of mind of all. We're going to talk a little bit. Our resident cable television expert, Mr. Keogh, will give us give us a little update about where we're at in that process with the city negotiating a potential extension with Spectrum. And I am going to declare, for whatever that's worth, whatever my declaration is worth, that it is time for the Worcester City Council to put itself on the record on where it stands on overdose prevention centers. And I'll have a whole bunch to say about that. First, I don't know what that says, but sure.
It's a biblical verse there, bro. You know what I'm saying? Just you know what I mean? Just right winging up your show, just throwing some right wing stuff there.
We'll take it to the biblics. So was your thought? Was your idea to talk about our first topic here? I wanted to let you start off with your thoughts.
Okay. So if you follow Worcester politics at all, you've already seen, or at least you may have seen some text version of it or a picture version of it, or maybe you've even seen the live video of Attell, one of our stalwart District 5 city councilor, and her what was it, 4.5 hours into the city council meeting, she brought a picture of a young girl who was killed by traffic violence here in the city of Worcester. Okay. And she made an impassioned speech. I thought the speech was good. I think that she's a great communicator of her passion and of her ability to connect her passion to the things and the issues that she feels are important, right? And the city council, you would think that the city councilors would hear this plea, this plea, and just kind of chalk it up in either two categories, right? Category one being, oh, that's just Attell making a speech, passion, right? So you think that there would be that group. And then there would be group number two that might agree with her and be like, hey, we really need to kind of work on this issue, blah, blah, blah. But there's a third category of reaction to things at Worcester City Council, and I forgot about this reaction, and I don't know how I forgot about it. I'm an idiot. It happens every week. The take it personal reaction. The somehow this is an attack on me and my person, and I'm going to now respond to this attack on me and my person by defending my actions. And it was because of one line in her speech where she said, this body has failed or this body has not done enough, or some version of that, right? And that is mind-boggling to me that people would respond to that line, which is a true line. The city council hasn't done enough. Part of the reason the city council hasn't done enough is because it can't, right? You and I have talked about this before. It doesn't have the authority that we want it to have. It doesn't have the legal ability to do things, so that's part of it. But another part is that the thing that they can do which is use the bully pulpit to stand up and make proclamations and to say things. They don't really do enough on these kind of things, right? We just talked about the secret shadow government of Worcester last week, right? The secret council of doom over there. I swear they have a robe. I guarantee they have robes. All right, so
the powdered hair and everything. That's like the House of Lords.
Yeah. They got a hat. They got a special hat. They do a handshake. All that. You ever see the Monty Python? The handshake underneath.
Let's get back on track.
Anyways, no. So my thought is that you're missing the point, right? You should use that space for exactly what Attell did. I think that she made a legitimate use of the space because they don't really have authority that they think they have, or they even proclaim that they have. But they do have the ability to kind of make a scene kind of deal, right? And in the best possible light of making a scene, because what she's doing there is she's bringing to light a child who died, who normally would not get the platform that a bunch of them have, right? They get to talk in the public domain all the time. I get to talk in the public domain, right? And I don't deserve it as much as a little girl who got killed, and she got killed by entirely preventable behavior. And the reactions from a bunch of the city councilors, and whether they're conservative or not, they all took it personal that she was saying the council could do more. So to me, then, since they took it personal, now I agree with her. Maybe they all have failed. Every single person who stood up there and said, I've done this and I've done that, and that's not what I did, and da 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 da, wham wham wham. You're not doing enough. You're not doing enough, because that's your response. Your response should have been, I agree, this is a travesty. What are we going to do about it? Right?
I do. So I do find it really strange that the city manager and the mayor said something collectively, but the elected body of city government, the supreme elected body of city government, the city council, has not spoken as a collective on this subject, which I find kind of stunning, right? At the same time, I agree that you like Councilor Haji, when she gets upset, is really when she does her best work, or her oratory is at its best.
She's great. She's a great public speaker.
Yeah, because she does it with passion, it's coming from her soul, and that's one of the, I think, many reasons to think that she is a strong representative for people. However, it was I guess it's a tactics. I don't necessarily think the tactics even though you're right, it was just one kind of middle line in the middle of the thing. It strategically, it just enables the conversation to be shifted. I mean, we saw this with the pregnancy centers debate, when Councilor 2 said to the city manager, "You lied to me." I think it's pretty obvious that they were being a little squirrely about that subject. But once they said that was what the conversation became.
About that.
Point gets lost. Right. Yeah, and then the point gets lost. I mean, the mayor was on, Hank Stoltz's show the next week talking about the poor decorum and not the issue. Right.
This is why I can never run, Tom, because I'll cuss them out. I will straight up cuss them out on air.
Yeah, well, so you can't do that.
I know.
And then look, I certainly, so I talk to most of the counselors on a somewhat frequent basis. I'm in good graces with most of them. Some that I disagree with tremendously. Our politics are very different. But if I was to gripe about this council, there are people that do not talk to each other on this council at all.
For sure.
And, that should stop, because there are things that people could work together on that they agree on, and then, not work together on that they don't agree on. There's people that just don't like each other, and that's fine. You can not like a person. But that there's, zero communication among some is not good. It's not good.
I was formerly used as a channel of communication between a couple of the folks that don't like each other, and until I decided I didn't, because they would be like, well, you tell her and you tell him.
Yeah, no, you just pick up your phone. Just pick up your phone.
I stopped doing that a few years ago. I also have pretty good relationships with almost everybody on the council. There's a couple I don't know because I haven't had a lot of deep talks with them, but there's a few I know quite well. And there's a couple that I've known since I was very, very young. So, I don't understand that rancor that exists there, because I don't see and by the way, this applies to both sides, whether liberal or conservative or whatever, because they're all Democrats, but except for Donna. We already proved that, right? So she's an independent. I got fact checked live a few, but what I'm saying is that
I'm not sure. I don't know what she's registered at. She used to be
we went on a website,
Republican City. Yeah,
independent.
Yeah.
So my point is though I don't know that there's any local issue where you can't talk to the person that you work with part-time. I don't understand that. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And to me,
look, when I talk to them, I'm not shy about what I think about issues.
Yeah, tell them why not? Why not?
And I don't piss them off. Yeah, and I don't piss them off. They disagree, and you can disagree on stuff.
There is a degree of Worcester politics where if you disagree with someone, you're like persona non grata. And but I also think part of that is because that was like a cycle of media and politics for years, where the media person would then take it personally. We have a bunch of prominent Worcester media people who would take the shutout personally and wouldn't do the work to get back to talk. You and I, before we got on air, you were talking about some work that you did, working with somebody that had thought that you were not, and you're trying to make bridges, work. You're a reporter. You're trying to make things work, That's what you're supposed to do. You can still voice your opinion without the person like hating you forever, but apparently sometimes not, I guess.
No, at least the kind of I know a little bit about one of the people. I'm not going to say who, but just a couple people that don't talk to each other, and that goes back to stuff even before they were, both of these people were on council,
pre-council stuff.
Yeah. It's just look, it's very different ways of looking at the world, but if you're going to be, it's different if you're at the state house and there's, I forget how many are in the House of Reps, or there's 60 senators, or you're at the federal level and there's 335, is that right? 435 in the House. When you're not that many people, you can not talk to some people, but when you're in a body of 11 people, not good.
And also I find that if you're not talking to some of those 11, and I know at least one of those relationships that you're referring to, and I've told them both, you're not doing your job. You're not representing the people of Worcester if you're not speaking to those other 10 people.
And the funny thing is on a personal level, those two people, if we're thinking of the same, and again, sorry for the innuendo here, it just wouldn't be right to say who
are very similar.
Yeah.
Yes.
It wouldn't be right to say who it is. That's a confidential thing that wasn't given to me on record, and then I'm not going to talk about.
Plus you get into trouble, and then they might not speak to us anymore.
Well, it would just be. I just would think it would be. Would I think be defying their trust, because it's something they talked to me about that was explicitly off record. But in one of those cases, two of the people that don't talk to each other, probably my two, on a personal level, probably my two favorite people on the council. Like on a personal, not talking about politics stuff, I enjoy both of them tremendously. And it's silly.
Who's Shawnee D checking in?
Yeah. So, actually, we can do this, I think. Yeah. So, I don't disagree. When you get somebody on camera and you're interviewing them, that should not be softballs, right? That should be, you should do hard interviews and ask tough questions.
Yeah.
But in this context, we're kind of talking about people within council, and getting work done, and to be in a body of 11 people and not talk to each other is not good. But no, don't disagree. Those relationships are important to me, for sure. But because I like the people involved also, so I wouldn't want to do something that defied their trust, or like in this situation, give something that was given to me off record.
Right.
But we're going to talk about something. We're going to talk about OPCs at the end of this episode, and I feel very strongly about this, and I know that some don't on council.
That's true.
And I will when people deserve to get whacked, not in a mob sense, but in a hammer sense, I'm not going to hesitate to do that. But typically they also understand that is the thing.
Yeah, usually I think every once in a while you hear that, like, that tone from some of the it comes out of the city manager's office sometimes, not just Eric, but city managers that predate him, and city councilors will say, well, why didn't you talk to me first? But the thing is that, and I can't help but use it, but some of the stories that I've written, I asked them questions and they wouldn't give me answers. So then I had to go get the answers because I had a source that was giving me answers. And then I found out that what I was saying was true. And the person that wouldn't give me answers then says to me, why didn't you come to me first? And I said, I did come to you first correctly. And you told me no comment, or they would lie right to my face and tell me, that didn't happen. And which is, I do have a pretty decent relationship with the former chief of police that predates the current chief of police, and he's on the record that he was not honest with me about the drones. I found out I had a source inside the police department, and so it is what it is. And so that's the it happens. And then professionally speaking, sometimes that leads to like the I'm never going to talk to that guy or whatever, and that's just foolish. I like what Sean's saying. I do like to make people squirm that are not doing the right thing. I really do. I want to make them a little bit uncomfortable, and I think they should. And also, I think that they take themselves way too seriously, and that's So then I know I got upset last week about the secret council, but that's because it's funny. It's funny, and then if they respond to it in a negative way, it makes me mad. Like, why are you getting mad? It's hilarious. Like, or they need more memes in their life. You know what I mean? They need me to send them Instagram reels late at night, like all my other poor friends are subject to. You know what I mean? Like, dude, like, don't take it, except when it's a serious issue. So that's why when I see the counselors respond to what Attell was talking about, I understand what you're saying, that it's a pivot point, because here's the picture of the young child, here's the comment that can be taken in that negative way. But the fact that they took it in the negative way is the problem. Why are they taking it so negatively? They could choose not to take it negatively. They could choose to just take it as is. Why not just take the criticism? Because the body hasn't, that we have this problem, it persists, right? And she used the term "this body," that includes her, right? So she's making a criticism of the whole council, not just individuals. And so for the individuals to take it as like it was a shot at them, I don't know. That is just weird.
Yeah,
to me.
yeah. I mean, and then I also found it strange that she moved to kill the order, which was a resolution supporting 25 miles an hour. people can support and not support whatever they want, and it's pretty obvious that Council Colorio does not support 25 miles an hour.
Yeah, we know that. She's made that clear.
Yeah, but I mean, to be holding that thing up in committee, like, let it go then. Just do a chairperson's order. No, we don't support this, and then we'll vote. Not we, but they will vote. But yeah, I mean, the weirdest thing about this, again, to me, and I just want to say it again, is that council hasn't spoken with one voice about this issue at all, right? There's no joint statement, right? We have the mayor and the city manager. It's very odd to me.
It is, because it should be a universal, easy thing. We condemn traffic violence altogether.
Yeah. I also, look, I'm kind of on the fence on 25 miles an hour, to be honest. I mean, yeah, maybe it will lead to a mindset. Maybe if they're doing 40, they'll do 35. Maybe. I don't know that people necessarily pay attention to the speed at all. They just drive fast, right?
They don't.
I don't know. I don't know if it'll have an effect. It can't have a negative effect, I would say. So at this point, maybe it's throwing baloney at the wall, but I guess it's worth trying. But at the same time, the police department's staffing numbers are what they are. There's 8 people in traffic right now.
So the speed limit, I will tell you this, there is science behind these two things, right? So the science says that the static speed limit sign, that like the white with the black numbers, that it doesn't matter what that is. There is no science that says someone sees that sign and adjusts their speed. There's none, no data to support it. And the same plan that the city manager is promoting, Vision Zero, has been implemented in New York for almost 9 years now, and they have 9 years of data where you could go and look at, where you see the traffic signs were changed. But there is data to suggest that flashing lights and the signs that say you are too fast. And I was at one recently. I was driving with Leanne. I was with Leanne, and there was one that gave an emoji. It gave a thumbs up if you were going the speed limit, and it gave a thumbs down.
Gamify it. I love it.
And I couldn't help but pay attention to that. But now, if you look at the studies underneath the Vision Zero plan, because that's a common municipal plan all over the country that people have tried to implement in various places. The studies do say that those flashing lights and beacons and colors and street changes, that is effective at slowing people's speed. And I think that's because we look at it. We can't help but look at it. We look at the thing that flashed, or we look at the colored paint on the ground, and we slow down, or at least we look away from our phone that we were looking at and see the blinking light or whatever it is. So yeah, and this is, Sean said, is a stopgap. The thing is, I don't want the council and the city manager to be able to finish the fixing by just voting for a speed limit change, because
I don't think that's going to be the case, though. I mean, if the city manager has been pretty steadfast on one issue, it's probably this one.
Yeah, they're gonna fight back against it. But in the meantime, so I guess I would go about it in a different way. And Sean just pointed it out, the traffic calming stuff, right? So there's a bunch of intersections that are poorly designed in Worcester. There's a bunch of light patterns that are bad, that are old. I don't. Anybody who's drives on Southgate Street that has to go by Hurricane Betty's, which I have to go by on the way to my church. Hurricane Betty's is right there. There's that weird 3-way intersection there with a right turn that goes back towards Kelly Square. That's on a timer, and sometimes, because of the way the timer rotates, it's a certain time of night. It's like between 7 and 8 at night. The people going this way and the people going this way have a green at the same time, and it causes traffic every single day. And what ends up happening is people at the other intersection that's behind there, they'll get stuck, and it just jams up that section going back towards 146. And so then there's traffic that flows that way. Same thing with Canterbury Street, and there's a bunch of places. Hurd Street. We just saw what happened with Hurd Street a couple of weeks ago when they had construction and it shut down Hurd Street. You got all the side streets jammed.
Oh yeah, James Street was a parking lot. James Street turned into a parking lot.
That's what happens because there's the traffic patterns in the city. It's an old city that was poorly. It was never designed for this many cars. It wasn't. It was designed. It wasn't. No one intended for this many cars, and so I feel like those things might be the thing that would be the better implementation. Although we've seen what happened with Mill Street, and there's this huge pushback against the redesign on Mill Street.
Yeah, I mean, look, if there's an accident within 1 square mile of one of these signs, it's going to be the sign's fault, and then we're going to have a culture war over the signs.
Did you see the new signs? So I drove there the other day. I saw that they put the at the back end. There's these in the ground. They put these signs, and then there's like a clear, distinct thing. You can't miss it. So if you drive into that sign, you really, I don't know what your problem is there. That's a hard thing to miss. But I get it. The painting still isn't finished, and they haven't raised that. Because part of the thing is they want to raise the bike lane. There's supposed to be an elevated bike lane.
I don't think that's the case. Maybe that's in the next plan.
That was in the next
full
phase.
design. Yeah,
if you remember, Councilor King had put in a measure to like make that happen faster, but that's like stage 3 or something like that.
Yeah.
So, but by the way, if you go to Boston, they have that all over the place. With the parking and the dual, like the raised. Did you bid on the?
Yeah, I was going to mention that when you said it.
Ah, come on. No, Sean, I did not bid on it.
Hurricane Betty, if anybody didn't know, Hurricane Betty's is selling its awning. I don't know who wants it, but if you do, it's on Facebook. I just want to acknowledge my dear friend Sarah Moore, who said, that's the whole point of reducing the limit is if people are going 10 over, that if you drop at 5, they'll still go 10 over. I get it. I just don't know if it's true. I don't want to see a enforcement first mentality, right? That the way we're going to do this is by giving lots of tickets. There are people that, I don't think much positive comes from increasing the number of stops, right? Both on police relations side, on how people of color in the city feel about their interactions with the police, right? I don't want to see an enforcement first approach. But at the same time, I do think that enforcement has to be part of the mix here. And, the fact of the matter is the traffic division, which is the only division that has radar guns, and the radar guns are 100 years old. Not 100, literally 100 years old, but they're old.
Did you find out? Did you find out about that? Did they really not have any radar detectors, or you got
the traffic division does.
Okay,
and it is currently staffed. Its total staff right now is 8 people.
8 people.
I mean, they're down. It's a numbers game, and they're down. 50 something, I think, still.
But there's just no way for them to enforce this city with 8 traffic-based officers.
Right.
It's just think about it. We were just talking about that intersection there. If you just radiate out from Kelly Square just a half a mile in every direction, and you have more than 8 major intersections that are all huge traffic function related to the city of Worcester, where people jam and people red lights. And if you just put those 8 cars at those 8 intersections, you're guaranteed red light cameras. I'm down at this point. You know what I mean? Just put the cameras up everywhere, and if you run a red light, you get a ticket. And hopefully but at least it'll make you upset enough to maybe think about driving. But I feel like people still don't care. Like I don't know if we could look at the numbers in other states where they've implemented it. I know in Rhode Island they did for sure, because as soon as you cross over the border on 146,
there's a big sign. Your speed being monitored. Yeah.
Yeah, you're getting detected all over the place. You know what I mean? And by the way, if you go, we talked about this like 2 weeks ago, but if you go look at the law, that they have a law in Rhode Island, it's not based on the speed limits for the people that are speed limit related. There's a actual traffic pattern detector, and it detects overages related to the overall speed of traffic. So if speed is going 10 miles over on average, they're not going to pull you. But if you're going 30, then they're going to grab. That's how they're detecting you. So they're looking for people who are, a spike in the mean, right? That's how they're doing it. Which again, Massachusetts, our roads are so old, at least compared to the rest of the country. How do they implement traffic pattern mentality driving behavior? That's a completely new story. We gotta start working on that now.
Yeah, and so I was discussing this on this topic generally on Talk of the Commonwealth with Hank Stoltz. Hank's a great guy. I'm doing a Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. spot with Hank. Weekly spot, me and Mark Henderson. talking about.
Wow, that's a crew right there.
Mark's a great guy.
I love Mark. I like Mark.
Mark's great.
Yeah.
And so, and we're really taking a different approach, talking about the top stories of the week, and it's a little bit about how they were covered, a little bit of, journalist input, but, basically discussing the top stories of the week. And this is to your point, Johnny, what he told me, and I don't remember this, I could have been asleep at the time, was when they put those red light cameras in, that it was sworn up and down that they would not be used for traffic enforcement, that they are for, when there's a greater crime, trying to locate people, locating evidence for crimes, or trying to locate people who are wanted for crimes.
Yeah.
Was the way it was pitched, apparently. I don't remember. This is just what he said. And he is very knowledgeable about the city and its ongoings. And so he says he would expect an outright war in the city if it moved toward trying to use those red light cameras for traffic enforcement, because they were installed kind of under the supposition that that's exactly what they were not going to be used for. So that should be interesting if they try and go in that direction. It's going to be fun.
They're not, that's another thing about those cameras. Remember, if you really want to use those cameras, they're not like recording 24 hours, right? As far as I understand, it's not like, they have to be like activated to get the recording within a certain amount of time. Like, so they have to like know that something happened to get it to call. There's a bunch of stuff to upgrade it to the kind that could real time detect. You got to go down to Rhode Island and look at the fights they had in Providence over the money that they had to spend to make that investment in technology. And so if you think about Worcester just for 1 second, and you think that if this city was going to make that investment in technology, you're talking a fight that could last who knows how long. Who knows how long. Even if everybody agreed, it would be a tremendous amount of money to make that kind of technological investment in the city.
Yeah, there's cameras all over the city, but many of them don't record at all. They're just live cameras.
They're just live cameras, and you have to pay someone to watch those kind of cameras.
Yeah. It's I think the gist I get from the live cameras is, especially like when there's bigger events going on, in the I forget what they call it, the real-time crime lab or whatever at the I forget what they call it, but the place where they have all the feeds at the police department. That's something that they do when there's events going on. I think, or at least when it's used most acutely is when there's events going on.
Yeah. By the way, I've been in that room. You've been in that room. That room is scary, no matter what anybody says. I don't care. It reminds me of the scene in Batman, the Christian Bale Batman, when Lucius Fox had to destroy the camera system that was used to track down the bad guys. It's a scary, scary thing to think about it. But I don't know. Maybe we're headed in that direction. Who knows?
At the same time, would they? How derelict in their duty would they be if they didn't have that, right? So it's
the solution is robots.
Okay. Moving on. This is I'm gonna after I introduce the topic, I'm just gonna check out for 10 seconds. So run away with this topic. Give us an update on where we're at on timeline and happenings of the Spectrum franchise agreement.
Everybody's really excited about the cable TV license in Worcester, right? I know that you're watching online right now and you're thinking to yourself, the thing that I want to talk about the most is the cable television license agreement timeline and what's going on. And I can tell you what's going on. In October, there's a deadline because the contract was extended by 1 year per agreement, because when I was on the commission, Spectrum was delaying any and all paperwork that they were supposed to turn in so we could finish the ascertainment process. As you may or may not know, we resigned. 4 of the 5 members resigned earlier this year because we didn't agree with the city manager's decision to publicly decide that he was not going to go with our recommendations to negotiate a better deal with the company Spectrum. Okay, so in October, the contract comes up. If the contract is going to be renewed, it requires a public hearing. Our charter has very specific situations where there is a public hearing required. In this case, it's a license that's governed by a state framework, and therefore it requires a public hearing to be renewed. It doesn't mean the city council votes on the renewal. They do not. They only can vote on a recommendation to the city manager, and the city manager, per the charter, has the ability to decide and determine if the contract will be renewed or not, the license. Okay. The license can be renewed for like a smaller period of time. They could do 1 year, 2 year, 5 years, whatever. But normally, traditionally, in our state, it has always been a 10-year renewal since the 1980s in every municipality across the great state of Massachusetts. I recommend strongly that we not get into a 10-year contract with Spectrum. That's my personal opinion. And it's an opinion that is held by apparently the vast majority of the residents of the city of Worcester, who do not like the service that Spectrum has given them. But there has been zero public information from the city manager, the mayor, or any of the city councilors in relation to the ongoing negotiations. I do have sources inside. However, my source will not come public. And we've been working on that. Tom and I have been working on that, and they will not come on the record. The only thing that I can say is there is a sense that the city is probably going to extend the contract with Spectrum. And I think we've all kind of thought that as a general public, for a long time, that it was like in the bag. And so I don't know what to tell you. I will do everything I can to hold the city manager and the city councilors accountable. I hope the city councilors will at least vote to tell him not to do it. I think the only way that he won't do it is if they had a consensus. So if there was an 11-0 vote, don't renew, maybe it would change the city manager's position. But I don't know. I can't tell you for sure. And I'm not speaking with any knowledge of his personal deliberations. He and I have not spoken about it still to this day. So that's where we're at. That's the only thing. I really think it's a bad company to do business with. And but I don't know.
Right.
I think
let's just put some caveats here. First of all, I've heard the same thing, that people inside Spectrum believe that this is, a foregone conclusion at this point. The city manager's office very forcefully denies that. That's just, exactly what was said to me is that's just not true. So, that's what everybody's saying. And again, we don't have someone from inside Spectrum on the record. So
they will not. So,
and for obvious reasons. Spectrum can pound sand regardless is right. Also, what people should also understand, and we've said this on the show before, is there is no outcome here that is not Spectrum still does business in the city.
Yeah, even if we deny the contract, they're still going to be the cable provider for a minimum period of 18 months, and that's part of the contract. Those 18 months, they have to provide the services. It does freeze the prices for that period of time. They can't raise prices. They can't lower prices for 18 months straight. And then the city has the opportunity to either transfer the wires to themselves or to a municipal group or to another company. So, that's the process, no matter what. And in between there's going to be a big, long federal fight, probably. It could be a really quick fight, like happened in Springfield, which it was resolved in less than 90 days. It was like 75 days, and they had a new contract. And I believe, my personal opinion is that Spectrum would cave to any legal action. They would cave in a second.
Because they're going to lose.
Yes, they will lose. Frankly, any time that's happened, and it's very, very rare that it happens, the cable company has lost almost every time, or at least lost in the sense that they've had to give things in the contract negotiations, right? So, to me, it is what it is. I said this, me and Manny were talking about this the other day, because we were working on a deal with another business who was interested in sponsoring us, and the person who owned that business gave a very specific offer, and that offer was definitely lower than what we think we're worth, right? And Manny had this comment, and he's very smart in saying this. He says, "Oh, well, they're telling you exactly what they think about their business versus what they think about ours." So sometimes you got to take the person seriously, and Spectrum has told us as the city of Worcester what they think about our business. They don't care. They just don't care. And if they eventually lose the license in Worcester, it will not affect Spectrum at all. It will not.
I don't know about that. I mean, the company will go on, but it is their biggest market in the region, and I'm sure they care.
Yeah,
but I mean, there's no realistic outcome that 18 months happens and then they're cut off. Like, they will continue to do business in the city. There will be a resolution. It's just how that resolution comes to pass and what leverage can the city use in that process to get what they can out of this.
To answer Shawnee's question, there's several concessions. For one, they could get them to just pay back the senior discount that they were contractually obligated to offer over the last 11 years, and they have not done so. And based on the FCC's decision, you can look this up. In 2015, there was a decision, and we proved as the Cable Commission, we proved that they, one, did have a senior discount, and two, that they were not offering that senior discount. And if you remember, Councilor Pasillo put forward a motion. She actually called Spectrum and was told herself as a city councilor that they did not have a discount for senior citizens in Worcester, even though we have the contract. So we've proven that. That at this point, it's factually on the record that we had that. So Spectrum could at least give back that money to our seniors and go on the books, and make permanent the discount for senior citizens and handicapped citizens. So those are those two basic things. There is no way to rate. You can't control rates because it is deregulated industry. But what you could do is you could get them to upgrade the service, right? So they have not invested in infrastructure in the city of Worcester in years, except for repairs, but they don't do any new installations. They were supposed to do a new installation at City Hall, Worcester Tech, and WCCA back in 2013, and they never did those. That was part of the old contract. It would cost them about $5 million now. Back then, it would have been like 1.5. They should do at least that, upgrade the services. And then one of the things that we had proposed was that they should make all the municipal buildings free. Right. So if you have a cable, then, and that's just a broadcast. So like let's say Tom's show gets picked up and was put on local TV, and we wanted to broadcast it. Yeah, why not? Maybe we'll get thrown on there, and we wanted to broadcast to WCCA's channels. It would be easy to do so if Spectrum upgraded what's called the head end to a T1 line, and they don't want to do that, which is silly because Verizon is now doing it all over the city and showing you that it doesn't cost that much. They're doing it literally all over the city, and they're using 30-year-old tech to do it. Because if you know anything about Verizon's history with the city of Worcester, they actually had started to install an original fiber optic network back in 1994 when they were Bell Atlantic. And then that was defunct because Verizon didn't get what they wanted. They pulled out. They're now using that same system. They're replacing the wires, but all the junction boxes that are underground, they're using those same junction boxes. And just one last thing for people who want to know, there's 3 entities that actually own poles in the city of Worcester. The city owns all the major junction boxes. Those are the poles at like an intersection that you see going 4 different ways. National Grid owns a bunch of the power ones. Those are the ones with those square boxes. Those are power transfer stations. And then Verizon owns the rest. Spectrum doesn't own a single pole in the city of Worcester. So that kind of gives you an idea of the entities that would need to be involved to get these concessions through.
And so, I mean, I think in, if you want to sum it up in just like 2 sentences, this company provides terrible service, doesn't care about the service. It seemingly doesn't seem to care about the service that people get. And this is the only time to extract any concessions out of them. And given how absolutely hated they are in the city, people want to see the city, leverage everything they can get from them because they suck.
And it's the only time that we have leverage. It's right now.
So the reluctance to go into this denial process, which is, I think you and I both agree, maybe we're wrong, but we both agree that they'll probably come back to the table and start offering things because they don't want that process.
I think that they don't want that process because I think it would cost them too much money. They would, and it would cost them public relations, which, like I said, they don't care about Worcester, but they do care about how it would look in the press overall. So, but I mean, there being a future in the city where there's no Spectrum isn't a thing. Not unless you and I start our own municipal secret broadband company, and I know how to do it. If we join the secret council and get our robes, then they'll give us the ability to get.
I don't think I would look good in a powdered wig, though.
Well, all right, we'll have Sean do it. Sean, you and me, we're gonna join the secret council with the wigs and the robes, and that's how we'll get cheaper cable into the city of Worcester.
Yeah, I mean, and like, you know, they increased their prices. I mean, they have broken they have violated the contract in so many ways.
Oh yeah, we prove that beyond a doubt. There's no one.
So people say, get them, because you can get them right now.
Yeah,
and
get them.
Just seems to not. It doesn't seem to be a lot of. I mean, I hope the city manager is just playing his cards to his vest and he's giving him hell, but I just don't see evidence of that.
So, you know, one of the things that's been said, and this goes back to the, you know, I know I'm kidding about the secret council, but you know, the thing about it is that a lot of these deals are made behind the scenes, and then every once in a while you see it like pop up into the public sphere. And what we're saying is there's no reason for this deal to be made secretly at this point, because Spectrum has very, very publicly slapped our city manager and mayor and city council in the face repeatedly by doing things illegally, based on I shouldn't say illegally, breaking the contract, right? It's not illegal to break a contract, but they've consistently broken the contract. And one thing about contracts is you can have a contract with someone, but if there's not mutual enforcement of the contract, over time, eventually the law says, well, you didn't enforce the contract, so then, hey, you know, why should we enforce it for you, right? That's a consistent principle in American law. And that's not good for us at all. So we need to enforce at least something, some provision as a municipality in this contract. Otherwise, other companies are, and believe me, other companies do look at Worcester like, yeah, whatever. Like WPI just did last week. They were like, whatever, we're going to do what we want, right? Because they don't care, because they see how other companies get to operate. So why should they act differently?
And the analogy I'd use is IRS audits. It's like, you know, they don't audit super rich people very often because they're really hard audits, and they have lawyers and, you know, whatnot, right? So the percentage of middle income people that get audited is higher.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because it's easier to do that. And it's, by the way, if you look at any government in the history of the world, they always want to collect revenue as fast as possible, not over a slow period of time, versus a company who is okay with maybe making a long-term investment, like the great Bobby Bonilla getting his Mets contract extended until 2033, like the genius that he is, right? So he's collecting over a long period of time and he gets the same amount of money. So that's a great thing. But cities don't like to do that. States don't like to do that. They like to get their money now. So the IRS goes after middle income people because they get their money now. They don't have to wait years. It doesn't take 10 years to get it. It's usually pretty fast. They could always do a lien on it. Whereas with a rich person, as we've seen at the very national level, when it's very hard to lock down a rich person, because they can keep punting it down the road and moving it down the road and changing it off and changing it off. Only not Bobby Bonilla Day, Sarah. Yeah. That's right. Bobby Bonilla Day is the best day. Every summer, man, it's the best day. Manny Ramirez has his till 2029. Did you know that? Manny Ramirez is still getting paid by the Red Sox every year. It's like 1.4 million or something like that every year. Yeah. I don't want to drift into baseball because we got in trouble last time. I don't want to get in trouble.
We did. We got yelled at. Manny was the man. That's all I got to say.
Best right-handed hitter of all time.
I don't know about all time, but he's no joke. I remember. No, we're not going to do it. We were almost in baseball nostalgia because I want to talk about this next topic.
Okay, all right.
So I went to the city's vigil for acknowledging International Overdose Prevention Day, which is actually Saturday, I think it was. But they had their vigil on Wednesday. It was a good event, good, speakers that had lots to say. I was able to meet very briefly Dr. Maddie Castile, who's I am fanboy of Dr. Castile. So I was happy I had yet to meet her. But I mean, everybody you could imagine was there. Multiple ranks of police department officials, every city official you could imagine. It was a good event. And there was even the mayor, to his credit, you know, at least had a mention of overdose prevention centers in his remarks. It's time for the city council to take a vote. You have Maddie Castile. I found minutes from a meeting in 2019 where in a board of health meeting, she was asked, what is the one tool that you would want in the toolbox if you could pick just one to deal with, you know, overdose prevention? And she said OPCs, safe injection sites is what they're also called. And she's long been advocating for them. My friend Gary Rosen, who's a great guy, who I have told him that all the bad votes that he took while he was a city councilor, I've forgiven him for, because he is just on a crusade to get this done. He's been to the State House a few times to lobby for this, and you know, is really all over this topic, and it is something that needs to happen in this city. I believe it was 155 people in 2023 died from overdoses. Every one of those is preventable. I understand that people think, so you're going to have a place where people can go and do drugs that are illegal, and this is going to be a legal place that they can go, and that, you know, there's a lot of responses. So there's a lot of reasoning for that. You know, you're just encouraging addiction, and you know, people are concerned about what that neighborhood turns into. You know, the people, I think, generally just respond with, this is just going to make it worse. And that's just not the case. There are now well over 100 of these across the planet. There's 2 in New York. There's a handful across Canada. They've been there for many years. The one in Vancouver's been there for many years. But over 100 worldwide. There is not one confirmed death in one of these things ever. No one's ever died in one of these. And folks, people that have you know, are suffering with addiction can't get better if they're dead, right? So let's keep them alive first. Secondly, and I really don't think people get this part of it, and this is the most important part of it. And I don't know why I think people's like gut reaction is to poo-poo this, but safe injection sites are a pathway to treatment. And people don't seem to like believe that, and I don't know what to say besides just wrong. You know, when Narcan is administered to somebody who's overdosing, well, first of all, it brings them back from the brink of death, which is great. But it also sends that person into pretty immediate withdrawal. And that's the lowest point you can be as an addict, is in full scale withdrawal. And people that, you know, this isn't like a kid, you know, it's not like a 16-year-old kid that would work at McDonald's. That's no offense to kids that work at McDonald's, but I mean, this is a trained professional that was going to work in these places, that know how to talk to people. And it's not only detox and rehab that they refer people to, but they refer people to services for food, for clothing, for jobs, right? It's easy to find. I can't remember the name of the company, but it's easy to find. You can pull up the first annual report from the same company runs the 2 centers in New York. And the statistics are remarkable. The amount of hazardous material they disposed of, needles, for example, you know, the number of people that have been through there, how many of those people were referred to services, and they called EMS. Like, I think it was like 3 or 4 times, if I remember correctly. It was a ridiculously low number. And I spoke with the chief of police at the vigil briefly, and you know, we were talking about just, you know, obviously we're at the overdose vigil, overdose awareness vigil, so kind of talking in that vein of stuff. And you know, he just said to me, "You wouldn't imagine how many overdoses that we respond to. This reduces that, because at least some portion of these people are going to a place where they know they're not going to be, you know, arrested or any of that. And the most core service, the most important core service that these centers provide is they will test your stuff. So if somebody who has a heroin problem goes in and they test their stuff and it's full of fentanyl, that person was probably going to just die. Now they won't be injecting that because they know now what it is. And, if they had, they almost certainly would not have died. So and I just encourage people, there was an article in the Boston Globe. Ooh, I'm not going to remember when, but it was written by a state senator who traveled to, I think, 5 of these locations, a few in Canada and the 2 in New York. He said one of them he couldn't find, and he had the address to the place. So it's not like there's a big awning outside or there's a big, lit up sign that says, come do your drugs here. That's not how these places work.
Right.
They're designed to be almost invisible. There's no evidence that it turns the surrounding area into a pit. That just doesn't seem like it's happened anywhere, as far as my research is done. So even if, which I think is a really horrific position to take, even if you think, screw it, let addicts die, I think it's a horrific position. But even if you believe that, do you like needles in playgrounds? No? Then be feral PCs. Do you like people in alleys passed out? No? Then go PCs. And just lastly, I just add, AIDS Project Worcester has already said that they will do this the day it goes live, the day that the State House finally passes the law. The important to note that the Senate did, and the absolutely dysfunctional, worthless House of Representatives didn't.
Shocker.
But I mean, so this is going to pass. In the not too distant future, hopefully next session.
Yeah, once the Speaker of the House extracts something out of it for some reason.
Just
weird.
What a weird. I mean, for some of all people in the state that have not, outside of people that commit horrific crimes, that guy's maybe the worst person in the state.
He might be. He really might be. Well, I do want to say this. As someone who, I have family history of substance abuse, and folks that have struggled with it. There's a couple things that it goes into the rhetoric against these places that is really annoying, right? For example, one thing people will say is that because you're an addict, you're automatically dirty. You want to be an addict. You automatically do all these terrible things. You commit crimes. You do all this other stuff. And that's not necessarily the case. In fact, there's really not a lot of data that supports that at all. There is a subset of people that maybe some of those things might be true, but it doesn't always coalesce into one person that you get this, and that. The thing that this does is it allows people who want to try to get out of the cycle to get out of the cycle. And it's based on decades. Now, the centers themselves are relatively new historically, but prior to these centers existing, there was a group of people that would go out into the field and find addicts and bring them clean needles. And there is data, decades-long data, to show that led to addiction, mitigation, where those people came back into society, they came back out of the thing, they became more successful, they cleaned up, and there was a lot of things. And then some of those folks became counselors. There's literally reams and reams of information to support this kind of holistic approach to finding someone and getting them out of the worst harm, as Sean said in the chat, harm reduction, right? So we're not necessarily stopping the addiction at that moment, right? But we are doing the addiction in a way that doesn't lead to death, right? So let's eliminate death as an option, and let's focus on maybe mitigating what the person is dealing with. And then that person might think clearly in a better way. Maybe they're able to get it. But just think about that. They're already looking for a way out because they're seeking that, right? If they know that the center exists, they're going to show up there. Another thing too, Ed, that you mentioned is that this idea that there's this blinking light and everybody's just going to come there and just start shooting up. So
that it ruins the neighborhood. There's just no evidence for that.
Well, so here's a great that's a great question, Sarah. I want to answer that question, but let me just hit this. We already have sites in the city where there is a bunch of people shooting in the open, right? We have, that already exists. So this center would at least maybe take that public, outdoor, really high risk situation and maybe mitigate that. So for the folks that are like, I'm against this, and because I not my backyard, the NIMBY kind of approach. Well, guess what? This reduces it in your backyard. It really does. It actually physically and visually reduces folks laying on the ground suffering from an overdose. That is a fact. And you can challenge me all you want. Some of my really conservative friends, and we can talk about that, but there's literally no data to support your position. You live as in a delusion, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
So
and
to
just
answer,
let me just yeah, I will definitely want to get to Sarah's question. But I just wanted to point out that there is going to be some people that will just go there, they'll do their drugs and they'll leave, right? And they
yeah,
won't get services and they won't get into help, and maybe it kills them eventually. But I mean, the point is it's people don't people don't walk in the door and they hit them over the head with you got to go to rehab. But you have somebody there who knows how to talk to people that are experiencing
yeah,
addiction, how to identify people who might be ready, and so that's it's a I don't want to say it's a passive path to treatment, but it's a welcoming place where people can come and do their thing and leave. But you have trained staff there who know how to talk to folks, right? That are living this lifestyle, who know how to I don't know a ton about how to counsel somebody who's experiencing drug addiction. So don't take my lack of finding the right words for theirs, because they're the ones that know the stuff. I'm not.
I can tell you that it's a lived experience thing, and it really needs to be handled by someone who knows what they're doing. Because as someone who's had family members struggling right in front of me with addiction and friends that have died, I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. There was no, I didn't have any of the tools. But then I know people who did, and they were able to engage and able to, and so then often what happened later, and as I got older, is I would say to friends that were struggling with that, hey, you should meet this person. And this, and then there was better outcomes. Did it always result in a positive outcome? No, because that's the nature of reality. Not everything turns into a perfect storybook ending, but in a couple cases people's lives turned around and they're amazing. This is people here in the city that are doing amazing things, that have that were formerly addicted and changed their entire lives because one person spoke to them that was a skilled, trained individual and was able to get them from addiction to eventually walking away from those behaviors.
Yeah, and I'm sure that I would speculate that the people that work in these places, many of them are former addicts themselves.
Yeah, lived experience is a very powerful tool.
Sarah's question, let's put it on the screen because there's no reason to read it. How does this help people who are at risk but still employed? So, I mean, again, I'm just going to take a cut at it. I don't know how right I am. I think that a lot of people might be interested in using their service where they'll test your stuff, right? Because look, you can buy cocaine, which confession, I've used cocaine before in my life. It was now many years ago because I'm old. And I feel like I'd die because I'm old. But when I was young and vibrant and fun, I tried a variety of things. But I mean, you could buy cocaine today and it have fentanyl in it and you die.
Yeah, die right away. Yeah.
So I think that some people that aren't maybe in the throes of a daily $50-$100 a day type of addiction, might use these places for that service specifically to test their stuff, right? Which is a good thing. People knowing what they're putting in their body is a good thing. Whether they're in the deep throes of addiction or they're in a preliminary stage or whatever. But I mean, to me, the most important thing here is the person that is working inside that place, having the experience to be able to talk to people, identify when it's the right time to try and talk to people. And then, some portion of the population that'll be there will probably be, from the homeless population. Although all homeless people are not addicts. I don't know why we still have to say that, but, there are addicts that are homeless. That's certainly true. And, this being a place where they can get, referred to other services for, like I said, clothing, food, job, a whole bunch of stuff. All positive stuff.
Right. I would say, just to add on to that, to answer Sarah's question, I think that having a place like this available, just the general knowledge of it, helps someone who might be in that struggle, right? Especially someone who you see, her question was, if someone is working but they're at risk, right? So maybe they're working day to day with a functional addiction, right? So those folks are the people that are most at risk from huge, different economic things. Then maybe they're going to be the person that's pushed into homelessness next. But right now they're functioning and they're able to do it. Most of our society still, and it's crazy because Tom, you just showed it, has this weird belief that addiction equals evil and homelessness equals bad and this equals that. Like they have this weird connection that is not based on data, it's based on fear mongering and rhetoric that is placed at the top. By the way, here in our state of Massachusetts, very much so by Democrats and Republicans, right? So for years and years, we've been told addicts are bad, homeless people are bad, and it's been universal at the media level. And so having knowledge that there's a place you could go that isn't going to talk about you like that, I think would change the way people behave. And I can tell you this, my own personal background a little bit, for those of you who don't know, I was one time in prison, and there are programs that were designed for guys like me who got out of jail that I went to, and they helped me succeed. And it is what it is. I'm not embarrassed or ashamed to talk about that because my life is amazing. I can't complain about it at all. You can see these pictures on the wall back here. Those are all movies that I'm producing, and that's my life because there were people who understood me and understood enough about my personal circumstances to actually counsel me and help me through the process. I didn't struggle with addiction, but I had a lot of economic based struggles, and so they were able to help me through those things. And because of that help that I knew was there, I was able to stabilize just like that. It wasn't that hard. And it's not something to be ashamed of. I think it's something to be saying is awesome. Right. So why wouldn't we want that to happen for other people that right now we're driving by in downtown Worcester? We were talking about traffic earlier, but the central part of the city is covered by folks that may or may not need help. So why not help those who need help? And as Tom said, and we have to say this, not every single one of those people struggle with addiction. But for those who do, let's make it easier for them to get out of there. Why not? What's wrong with that?
Yeah, I wanted to acknowledge Lynn's comment. Who I know Lynn, and she knows more about addiction and treatment than many of us will ever know. And I think this is well put. You can't yell at people. You can't yell at people into rehab. It's not how it works, right? People that I remember not long ago. Of course, it's on Facebook, which is a spool. But somebody saying, we should be making fun of these people and ridiculing them. It's the tough love approach, and like that doesn't work.
Because that's worked, right? Because we have evidence that has worked in our history.
Right.
Shame-based approach has a history of work, right? That do we have that now? No, we don't. We don't have that now.
So the only question would be, in North America, I think the oldest one is in Vancouver, and Vancouver's population density is way higher than Worcester, right?
Yeah.
So based on, and I didn't look at all 100 of them. I didn't look at ones in Europe. But as far as North America, in like the less than a dozen, I think it's more like a half a dozen that are here. This would certainly be the lowest population density location, right? They're usually in bigger cities, New York City, Vancouver, for example. So that's, where it's located is a challenge. And, is that going to affect, right? Is the population density high enough that the utilization will be high enough, right? If you're across the city from the thing, you're not going there, right? So that is a bit of a question mark, but that's why, you do a pilot. Which again, AIDS Project Worcester, which did amazing work during COVID, has said they are ready to go. Just pass the bill. And so, look, this is, regardless of how you feel about this about the topic of addiction in general, these things are a net positive, no matter what your position is.
Yeah, the data just says that you're wrong if you say that it's a bad thing. And so Sarah asked a more specific question about someone who is like a professional living in a middle class area who's struggling with addiction. I think that having a facility like this, just having the public knowledge, which goes back to Lynn's statement, that just knowing that there's a place you can go to and no one's going to say anything, and there is a history of these places operating in that way. By the way, there's plenty of Sarah. If there's a person that you do know, there's plenty of places that I can connect them to if you want to reach out to me. I have there's a bunch of great places. I would say that the Kiva Centers, which is literally right across from City Hall, and then Everyday Miracles, which is a little bit up. They're not safe injection sites, but they are peer support places for people struggling, whether it's with identity or addiction or homelessness issues. So those places do exist for them to go already. But this additional layer of protection would really create an opportunity for our city, which complains a lot for the population density about this issue, right? We have a huge amount of complaining, especially by our public officials, and we have a current policy that still exists that we want to bulldoze people and try to hide them as much as possible. I hate to rail Clark. I feel like I'm always criticizing Clark on every show that I'm on, but as a Clarkie, the stated policy of Clark Police for years and years, it was called the handoff policy with the Worcester Police Department, was to move people who were homeless and people who were struggling with addiction or people who were, sex workers from the area in front of Clark on Main Street down into Main South whenever the parents were coming for Parents Weekend. That's a stated real policy. You can actually look it up, and it existed. And so we as a city, we operate in this idea that we're going to try to hide what's happening with our own eyes by pushing them into the shadows. And instead of doing that, why not bring them to a place where they can at least try to work out the things that they're struggling with in a place that is set up and designed and literally researched into the best possible version of that? Why wouldn't you want that? It doesn't make any sense. It's not logical to me that you wouldn't want people to be healthier. I don't understand.
Well, yeah, I mean, and again, I just want to reiterate, even if you don't care about their health, even if you hope they die, if you want less needles in playgrounds, be for OPCs.
Yeah.
If you want less people, passed out in alleys or whatever, be for OPCs. There is absolutely, especially with an organization, especially with an organization that is willing to do it here in the city and has done great work here in the city. And look, this can't. I started this off with it's time for city council to vote. This can't happen until the state passes a law that allows it. It will do that. When is another story. But I just think that having the Board of Health say it is one thing. Having city council say it's a much different thing.
It is. It would be a very, very public statement to make.
Yes, and it would send to. Although I don't know everybody in our state delegation's position on this, but I'm not aware of anybody who's vocally against it. It would send a message to our state delegation. We want and we think we need this. Yeah. We are one of the worst as far as opioid deaths per capita. One of the worst municipalities in the state, if not the worst. This is a big problem here, bigger than most places in the state. And if there's a place that this should be tried, it's absolutely here.
For sure. All right.
Even if you hate them, I urge you to urge your city councilor when this comes up, and it will come up, and I think it might come up soon. I would just ask you all, this will save people's lives.
Yeah. And you just muted yourself.
I did.
And you're back.
All right.
And
we only got a second left. If my audio's weird, we only got a second left anyway. So.
Yes, so so for those of you who are new to the This Week in Worcester podcast, this is now the best part. We try to end every week with something fun and exciting, and this is gonna change your life. So stop whatever you're doing right now and pay attention. Focus on the screen, right? And look deep into Tom's eyes lovingly look at Tom, right, get right into his face when I ask him the question of the week, and it's something about food. But in this particular case, we're going to shift it to the beverage land, right? So, Tom, I'm going to put you to the test. You said the city council needs to be on the record. Tom Marino, we want you on the record right now. Are you ready for this? Coffee or tea?
Oh, coffee, 1,000%. I'm not anti-tea. Don't get me wrong. I'm not anti-tea, but I am coffee camp all the way.
Coffee camp. I
usually make it at home. So I do. Our right-wing friends are gonna go ballistic right now. Just because I'm growing the wrong way. I'm growing sideways more by the year. So I made the switch off of, I used to do half and half. Now I do almond milk.
Almond milk?
I do the reduced sugar. So there's no sugar in it, but it's reduced. And I don't put any extra sugar in it. Just that's enough sweetener to get me through. That's how I roll. If I go out, that's different. I'll usually just get, regular rice medium. Whatever they put in it, it's fine. But, most of my coffee I make at home and just do a fair amount. Don't get me wrong. But I just do the almond milk only.
All right, so I would say coffee too. I do drink tea. I probably go in kicks of tea, especially whenever the latest fad tea comes out. Like drink this tea and you're gonna do this better. I always do that. I always fall into those kicks. But I will say this, and it's gonna be a super controversial opinion, and it can only be reversed under one condition. Dunkin' Donuts coffee is not that good. It is really not. Starbucks coffee is worse. So it's not like I'm gonna say, Starbucks. It's just sugary. It's just sweeter. But here's what I'm gonna say: a home brewed batch, I'm down for. I would say my favorite coffee by far doesn't really hit the coffee thing, but that's Cafe Bustelo, which because I go to an all Hispanic church, they got me addicted to this, which has a little bit of espresso in the mix. And by the way, it really punches you right in the face. He says, buy your own beans. Word, I'm with that. Grind your own beans and get it done. So I would say I'm a coffee guy, but Dunkin' Donuts coffee is not good coffee.
Well, just put a bunch of crap in it. I'll drink it, but it's no. To say this now, look, I stay out of Starbucks unless it's a store I know that's unionized. Because of their union politics, I'm all set. So if I'm over on East Central Street, for example, and I just went through this whole thing about how I'm trying to keep my sugar down and everything. Ice caramel macchiato quad. It is just this overload of sugar with an extra. That's a quads. Usually make it 3 shots of espresso. This has 4. So if you get a quad, it'll stop your heart, but kickstart it. But stop it, but kickstart it. It's good stuff.
By the way, if Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks wants to sponsor the This Week in Worcester podcast, I will totally change my mind immediately, and I will come out for your coffee. You can even pick one particular latte. You could call it the Jonna latte. I don't care. I'm down for all those kind of things.
I'd have to meditate, and I don't meditate. I'd have to meditate if I would take Starbucks money, but that's another story.
So by the way,
they're not going to give it to us.
There is 0 chance on earth that Starbucks is going to kick into us, so it doesn't matter. But Dunkin', maybe Acoustic Java. I know Dave. Dave's a good dude. Acoustic Java. He likes to do the hints of interesting stuff in his coffees. Yeah. Right, he adds things in there. It's like a little, throw a little bit of this in there, a little bit of that in there. That's not bad. By the way, if anybody wants to go to a local place that does great coffee, I have no problem, shilling for my friends. But Bayland's Cafe de Pan on Main Street, right at the corner of Clark, in the building that they're going to tear down. Clark, go check out Bayland's. It'll blow your mind. Get the little one. It's like that little. Tom and I, we had that little thing, that whatever the little one was, and it cooked me for days. I was up for days on that one little tiny cup.
I don't remember what it was.
I forget what it was.
That place is fantastic. Acoustic Job is fantastic.
Yes.
I only I'm almost ashamed that I know what my order is at Starbucks, but it is what it is.
It's okay. Buddy.
Know that I feel shame right now that I just divulged my caramel macchiato quad theory. And if you get anything with the rule is, if you're getting anything with espresso, always get the extra shot.
I drink it black generally, my friend, which is a little crazy when you get espresso in there. Oh, also, Stop Cafe, real quick, Stop Cafe on Park Avenue. They have Turkish coffee that you can get in the little gold, tiny little thing. It's super bitter. But again, if you really, truly want to wake up, go to Stop Cafe and get a Turkish coffee. Tell them John sent you. Absolutely.
Yeah, now that I think now that I think of it, I mean, I was very forceful about my 100% preferred coffee, and it's true, but it's really just because it's got more drugs in it. Like, let's be honest, we're after the drugs in the coffee. We're not after the coffee.
By the way, we have all these nice coffee places where you can go and work out your addiction in a nice, clean environment. So, like, this is something that we already do in a normal basis. You can go there. There's hookah lounges now.
I don't know if this is the best analogy.
No. Oh man, I'm trying to thread that needle.
just be for saving lives, and that's all you need to do.
Oh, Sean goes to Stop Cafe is great. The Albanian family that owns it. Whoa, love that place. Big fan of Stop Cafe.
I don't think you can do this when you've got a last name like Keogh.
Why not?
That's a my people thing. Anything else?
That's it. That's it for the week, dude. I'm done. I'm toast.
All right. We're a little long this week, but we were talking about coffee. It is what it is. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate all the comments and whatnot. We will try and screw it up less next week. This week in Worcester out.
I'm not a princess. I'm just waving like this.